Good morning, everyone. Wow, it's impressive, honestly. It's very impressive, this big room, this such community that we see growing every year. The best of the open source energy community all together in this big room for the next coming couple of days. So my name is Minh Dupuis. I am the product lead for market management systems in the grid software business of GE Vernova. And before starting, I want to tell you a bit about my role as a product lead in GE Vernova. It's pretty simple to explain, in fact. I look at market trends, my future customer needs, and I align the software strategy and the product roadmap accordingly. So that's quite a straightforward process. But basically, it's making sure that every engineering hour is invested in the smartest way. Smartest way for a vendor means, the build once, sell many times kind of story that generates predictable and regular flow of license revenue. Yes, I said it, revenue, license, even subscription licenses. Hey, come on, I'm a vendor, am I not? So any other vendor in the room? I know there are some. Raise your hand. Yes, yes. See, thank you. And we may have variations in our business models, right? But at the end of the day, what do we like? We very much like commercial software. So that leads me to the real question. How do we create commercial software with open source? And even further, how do we do it while being an active contributor to an open source project? And the story I'm going to tell, well, the short story is, the short answer, only if you think about it from the very beginning. Only if you think about it by design. That's really just it. But I'll continue. I owe you the longer version, don't worry. I have slides anyway. In fact, the story I'm going to share with you today is my personal journey with Linux Foundation Energy at GE Vernova. And my story is not only about software, it's not only about standards, not only about business models, but it's also about timing, about conviction, and how sometimes the second try is the one that changes everything. So my story started in 2018, in fact. And it was a pivotal year for me because I just stepped into my new role in the product management role. But I guess also for some of you too, because that same year, 2018, was the creation of Linux Foundation Energy, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember one of my very first customer meetings in that new role was with NSOE leadership. So we had Laurent Schmidt, the general secretary back then, and Nicolas Richet, CIO, visiting our Massy office near Paris. So we went through many topics, busy agenda. But at some point, Nicolas said, hey, you should meet that new branch of the Linux Foundation recently formed that focuses on energy. So I was like, yeah, but why not? It doesn't hurt to try at least. And I had the chance, I must say, I could meet. So a few weeks later, he introduced me to Julie Goodman, and I had the chance I could meet her a couple of times. And then I discovered the first projects, even before they were named, actually. And a couple of them caught my attention. It felt relevant. And I tried to push internally. And I'll be very honest with you, because not that I am a strong open source believer, though I had my time when I was years ago as a young garage engineer. But I was more like an opportunist. I saw both the commercial potential and the risk of staying out, since also many members were our key customers. And even some of them were competitors. So I was like, yeah, let's sit on the same table. But then came, that's Watson. He's cute, maybe he's more than the reality was, but yeah, this brought me back to reality. too many walls. In a vendor world, at least in my vendor world, it just felt impossible. So I stopped, in fact. I gave up, and that was the end of the story, at least for me. And fortunately, I could still find some comfort because knowing that some of my colleagues in the grid automation business at GE Vernova were moving forward with the CPAF project, the digital substation. But yeah, for me, that was it. Well, end of the story? In fact, not exactly. So 5 years later, in 2023, we had a second chance. So what changed? And this time we had the perfect equation. A regulatory requirement, plus a real problem to solve, plus strong open source advocates, plus a customer traction. Bingo. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. The second try was not as smooth as my slide pretended it was, and really, this second try was multiple tries, really. But this time, the dynamic was clearly different. And we had the backing from our product line management. We engaged our legal team. And this time we had the right framework. And in case you don't know, the Linux Foundation provides a solid legal framework. Especially there is the community specification license designed exactly for open source communication standards. And it helped us address risks, especially around patents. And then we realized since FERC was asking everyone to do this anyway, there was nothing to patent, minimal risk. So what was the problem we were facing? In the US, FERC Order 881 literally changed the game. It pushed utilities from using the static line ratings, updated maybe a few times a year, season-based, to adopting ambient adjusted ratings. And that means early updates with real-time data, plus 10-day forecast data. So suddenly, we were talking about massive volumes of information exchanged between operators. And with all of that, in a very short timeline to comply. So this creates what I call the 4 Cs challenges. Communication performance. Can the systems handle the volume and speed? Coordination or consistency. Am I using the right rating, approved rating in my operations? Conventions, even something as simple as naming, it can be chaos if you don't have an agreement. And of course, cybersecurity, because we are dealing with critical infrastructure. And now, that's the real kicker. There was no standard, none. When you think about IEC, SIM, or whatever, CGMES, they didn't deal with AR or DLR exchange. Or not yet, maybe. So, and even though there is a certain level of cooperation in North America between system operators, there is nothing comparable with what ENSOE is doing here in Europe in terms of standardization, harmonization. So at the end, everyone had to invent their own way. So what did we do in response? We created one, TROLIE. So TROLIE is an open API hosted at the Linux Foundation Energy that anyone can adopt. And honestly, this is not a new story, right? We've seen such approach, nothing revolutionary in that approach. There is a story, maybe you have heard that so many times, but if you remember back in the early 90s, there was no universal way to exchange electronic documents. Each word processor, it had its own format. So there was a promising company came with an idea. Let's create a standard for portable documents, make it open, and even give away a free reader. Sounds familiar, right? Adobe just created the portable document format. That's how PDF was born. And PDF became the de facto standard. And then it became an ISO standard. And here is the interesting part in that story. In fact, by opening the format, Adobe lowered the barriers for adoption. So yes, it opened the market to competition, but it also massively expanded the ecosystem. And because Adobe trusted so much in their product suite, they didn't lose. Actually, they won bigger. They won bigger. So now, what do you think we are doing here with TROLIE? Exactly the same. We remove adoption barriers. We accelerate the adoption. We grow the market. We accelerate the compliance. And because we trust in our product, LEP, and I'll touch a bit more about LEP in the next slide, we can open the door to everyone while keeping our leadership. So now, once you have when the standard exists, what do? You build on top of it. So on top of TROLIE, we built LEP, the Limit Exchange Portal. And think of it really as the enterprise-grade layer that makes the standard usable at scale. LEP brings the intelligence, coordinating the flow of rating data, the integration with peripheral systems, as well as all the security, auditability, permissioning, etc., all the features that large operators expect when they run mission-critical systems. And yeah, that's really what I call being commercial by design, where you deliver the real value. So with the open standard, you create trust and interoperability, while LEP provides the differentiation and the commercial advantage. So you get the best of both worlds. Open adoption plus monetizable products. So what was the result? Build trust and accelerated sales. Our early adopter customers, so we were serious about and that we could deliver. And that's the thing, right? When you show you can solve the how, it helps accelerate to close a deal. Opened new opportunities, and the open standard made conversations possible they were not before, especially at the transmission owners level. We sold LEP to several of them, and the reality is that was a segment that we did not even think before. We were mainly focusing about regional coordination with the regional operators, RTOs, ISOs in the US. Lower friction with competitors. Yes, even competitors appreciate the shared standard. And several of them have adopted it and deployed it at their end, the LEP client as we speak. And faster, broader adoption, of course. The ecosystem grew quickly because there was a clear and trusted path. And most importantly, we have our customers now going live with LEP on TROLIE. So MISO, SPP, ISO New England, and a few others. So real operations, real benefits. So this is also what I call the trust dividend, that by leading with openness and reliability, you create both commercial and strategic impact at the same time. And I wanted to say trust scales faster than code, but I heard Alex said also enough talk and more code. Believe me, we had 5 years of talking and until getting there. But what I can realize is really create the trust in the ecosystem. From a vendor point of view, definitely accelerate the sales. And this is not an isolated experiment. In fact, LEP and TROLIE are part of something bigger, GridOS. The grid orchestration software, GE Vernova's next generation grid software platform, already production grade, actively maintained and delivered with a clear roadmap. GridOS is modular and it's open source ready and built mostly with most of the best of breed OSS components, and many of them coming from the CNCF ecosystem, by the way. Why? But simply because we know our customers would likely choose the same component themselves. So by aligning with them, we just ease integration and overall interoperability in the ecosystem. So, and yeah, maybe to share my opinion here, because in that sense, I believe it provides a strategic option to the ongoing initiatives we see in the region. So I'm talking about ENSOE vendor agnostic solution, for example, or the ELIA 50Hz MCCS platform, or any other similar platform that TSOs would build by themselves. So that's the couple of questions I'd like to ask. Maybe provocative question coming from a vendor, right? But why each TSO invest multiple times in building the same capabilities? And why should they each support it alone when one vendor aligned, interoperable platform and aligned with your choices can serve all? So let's talk about it. Let's engage the conversation. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to take arguments and punches. I'm curious to know. So in short, open, modular, interoperable, and aligned with customer choices, ready to scale for everyone. That's GridOS. So if there is one thing I've learned from this journey from 2018 to 2023 and until now, you don't have to choose between open and commercial. You don't have to see them as opposites. And so whether you are a vendor, a utility, or system integrator, just remember you can lead with openness, build trust, and create impact all at the same time. And maybe the second try, or the one you didn't think would work in the first place, will be the one that really sticks. So also as final words, I'm just a messenger here today. And the real heroes are the team of open source defenders working tirelessly behind the scenes. So I'm thinking about my colleague, Tori McKeag, in GE Vernova, but also active customers like Christopher Atkins at MISO, who recently joined the community, and also SPP, very active, and ISO New England. So nothing of this could have happened without them, and I would not even be there speaking about it without them. And this is just the beginning. We are planning to share an open agenda with a technical advisory committee, the TAC. So this is your call to action. Join us, contribute, help, and shape a future where both commercial product and open standard can work together to reshape and transform the grid. I guess someone is happy now. Yes, so with all that said, thank you for your attention. Thank you, Linux Foundation Energy, and all the partners for making this event happen. And again, all credits and thanks to my colleague, Tori McKeag, Christopher Atkins from MISO, for being my source of inspiration. Thank you.